we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our September, I can't believe it's September 27th, monthly consortium meeting. I'm Chris Berry. I just want to welcome everyone to the meeting today. I'm glad you were able to take out an hour or so of your time to be with us. I just want to do a couple quick introductions and let everyone say hello. Ashley Schaffner is our chair-elect. Want to wave, Ashley?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ashley.
Peggy Nolte at Arizona is our past chair.
Hello.
And Ria and Lucy are at AAN. So thanks to Ria for always getting us organized, sending out the agenda, sending the Zoom links to everyone. We don't have a whole lot of new business or anything to talk about today. So we're going to go ahead and just move on to our agenda. And I'm going to let Ashley go first, and she's going to talk about a new something new we'd like to try, which is a program manager meetup. So Ashley, go ahead and talk to the group about this.
Yeah, so at our last meeting in one of the breakout rooms, the topic of having a program manager like conversation corner came up. And by program manager, I mean somebody that supervises other coordinators or other staff, just so that we can talk, converse, bounce ideas off of each other, and just, you know, whether that be career development or whether that be like talking about supervising, or whether that be, you know, motivating staff or whatever that may be, just that we can talk monthly or bi-monthly about that. So if you are interested in joining, feel free to email Ria, and her email is right there. And we hope to get that started in the next month or so.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. I hope that if you're a program manager, you will take the time to contact Ria to sign up, and hopefully we can have a small group of managers meet and share ideas and best practices with one another. So the topic of today's sharing session that we're having is best practices for hybrid recruitment. And I know if you're a residency coordinator, you're in the thick of recruitment. I'm not residency, but I do fellowship, and Lord have mercy, I've had fellowship recruitment all year long. I'm still in the middle of sleep right now. And then we'll have a break after that. So I think this is a perfect time for us to talk about hybrid recruitment, whether or not your institution is going hybrid, or if you're still going to be all virtual. We thought this might be some useful information for everyone. So we have a couple of folks who kindly offered to share the information that they're using at their institutions. So I'm just going to introduce them real quickly and then let them start with their presentation. So first, from University of Michigan, we have Nina Galanti. And thank you, Nina, for joining us today and presenting. Caroline Martin is at University of Iowa. And from Mass General, we have Silviya Eaton and Mia Falco. So thanks, ladies, and I will let you guys take it from here.
I will just add Mass General Brigham.
Mass General Brigham.
Yes,
Partners.
thank you. Yes.
Sometimes people don't know what partners is, but
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Chris. And let me go ahead and get my screen up so I can share with you guys. Let me start beginning here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys briefly about some of the preseason and during the interview process, some of the meetings that we have at the University of Michigan. We actually still are 100% virtual, but these are some obstacles even in a hybrid situation. I feel like the interactions with our house officers and our faculty, you can encounter as well. So I'm going to go over one of our big items that we do is prior to the recruitment season, we offer Zoom webinars. So I'm just going to kind of talk to you guys about some of the really nice features with having those, and also some of the tips and tricks that we kind of do as well. I think it is important when you do a Zoom webinar, that will be the first one that I will talk about. And then I will also talk about fellow meet and greet or house officer meet and greets during the recruitment season. So for Zoom webinars, for us in our institution, you actually have to have special privileging to do this. This nice features about having a Zoom webinar are that we actually, you get to create a registration link so that you can advertise this. We put it on our websites and all of our social medias, and it allows for a large number of people to join the Zoom. It also allows for a more structured Zoom. So we do prepare an agenda where we will give a allotted amount of time for each faculty, or even our residents came in and spoke as well. So we do recommend that you do a practice run when doing this, and also do an agenda. It's also important when you're doing a Zoom webinar. We felt, at least for our team, that you as a coordinator are in attendance with that, so you can run the spotlight feature on that. So there's not a lot of back and forth. There's not the small windows there. It literally brings that faculty member to the center. So it is just like a regular presentation. Another nice feature is we're actually running one of these shortly for one of our fellowship programs coming up. And right now we have very low attendance. So with a Zoom webinar, you can actually switch it over to a Zoom meeting if the attendance is low. Where residency, we had 106 residents that registered for it, and 89 came to the event. With our fellowship, we're looking at quite a smaller number of people. So a webinar might not be the best platform to do that. One of the also good things that we did notice when we went through and did our webinar this year is during the registration, you can actually create a source tracking link. One of the comments that our program director felt was that we probably weren't attracting a lot of US medical graduates. So you can actually run filters to pull that information if this is a concern or an area of interest for any topic of how to recruit different types of groups of people, whether medical school or other things that you're trying to attract to your program. So I just wanted to kind of share a couple slides on how you go about doing that. When you're setting up your Zoom link, you have this source tracking link, and you can add that. And then in that, when you do registration, you can do a required amount, and then you can also pick what the topics are and what the tracking filters are that you want to run. So this case, we actually picked medical school, and then you can save that and customize your questions. And also a nice thing about there's actually an option too with webinars to send a post-webinar survey out. So that actually generates the email for you. So this is an example of what the email would be that they would send out automatically. Zoom sends out. It's 24 hours from the time of the event. I don't know about your program directors, but our program director loves data. Any more data that we can give him for this stuff is greatly appreciated on his end. So that is kind of some of the things that you can do with a webinar. The other thing that we would do is we do house officer meet and greets. These are set up just like a standard Zoom like we are on here. We send out the information when a candidate is invited for interview. We give them the option of dates that we have these, and our fellows join them. So it's actually nobody from the program except for the house officers, in this case fellows, join the meeting. And this is just time which typically would use in person. We would do a lunch with them. So we do this in the evening hours for about an hour and a half to 2 hours that they will meet with them and just discuss anything that they need for the program. This we are offering 3 times during the recruitment season because we do interviews over, we have our interview season for SLEEP is August, September, and October. So we offer a meet and greet every month for that. And we just invite them to come to whatever one they would like to come. And we've actually found that this is actually a lot better. we get more of a house officer attendance to this because it's after hours. Something we've also offered to our house officers is we do offer them some type of incentive, meaning as we give them a group, like a group Grubhub gift card or something like that, so they can eat, because it's usually during dinner hours, since we can't do it in person. So, and that's just my little tidbits of information that I have for pre-season or during season, when you can't do that one-on-one face-to-face encounter. Any questions or anything? Okay.
Okay, so that segues really nicely into what I'm going to talk about, and I'm definitely going to touch on some similar things as Nina. So I am going to talk a little bit about what our program does to try to create as much as possible an in-person experience in a virtual format. So unfortunately, again, this year we are fully virtual again, so we won't be bringing anyone on site, but there are certain things we try to do and tweak every year to give applicants a real feel for our program. And we look at a couple things as we tailor the interview experience for them. So we try to think about ways we can showcase our program's culture, especially the people, the faculty, the trainees, and how they interact with one another. That's something that candidates really look for during the interview process, especially difficult to replicate when it's over Zoom. The other thing would be the facility. So the spaces used by the program. Applicants not being on site want to know what their workspace is going to look like, what the hospital looks like. So I'll talk a little bit about what our program does to try to show these things off. So first off, giving applicants a feel for the people in the program. We start out before interview season. We have a virtual open house. So this was held early September. Our program did a Zoom webinar similar to what Nina talked about. We opened it up to anyone who wanted to register and attend, and all of our program leadership and our chief residents joined for that. And we kept it pretty informal and did a Q&A session. People who registered could submit questions beforehand, so we touched on those, and then it just became an informal Q&A session after we addressed any of the submitted questions. So we also, similar to what Nina talked about, have a meet and greet just with our residents the evening before the day of interviews. So this is tied to the actual interview day for the candidates. It's typically an hour and about 15 minutes long, and none of the residency leadership joins that. It's run by our residents only. And again, it's just another really informal session to give the candidates a feel for what our residents are like, what life as a resident is like. And it's a great way to see how our residents interact with one another. On the day of interviews, we have a meet and greet with our faculty. We have faculty sign up in advance and just, again, informally meet and chat with the candidates who are interviewing that day over Zoom. Then we have candidates attend a noon lecture on the day of their interviews. This is another really good chance for candidates not only to see what our didactics look like, but to see how our trainees are interacting with the faculty who are running those didactics, and how they interact with one another. I think that is a really great opportunity for them. And lastly, we have throughout the interview season, we offer a couple what we've called subspecialty fairs with even more of our faculty. And what we did last year was opened up like 2 or 3 dates, and candidates could attend any or none of them. These are a totally optional thing. And I'll talk just a little bit more about what those look like, but that was another opportunity for candidates to meet with even more of our faculty and to learn more about the subspecialty offerings. So the programs that we used, we definitely use Zoom quite a bit, but we also use a program called Gatherly. And this is something that we use for those subspecialty fairs. Gatherly is a program, we subscribe to it, so we do have to pay for it. It's similar to Zoom, but it is a lot more interactive. So when you log into Gatherly, it looks like this screen here. On the right-hand side, you see a layout of the virtual room. And you can customize this layout any way you want to. And what is really great about this is that candidates can actually just grab their mouse and they can click and move themselves as they want to. So they can actually move themselves from room to room. There's no management of breakout rooms with this, which is really nice. So this is just an example of one of our rooms or maps that we used last year during one of these virtual fairs. So one of the virtual fairs, we had topic tables where we put faculty in each room and had them assigned to certain topics like our inpatient services, research, our ambulatory services. So then when candidates would join these sessions, they could go to whichever virtual table suited their interests. And then once they click on the table, they're taken to a room where it looks like kind of like a Zoom session where you can see the other people in the room, like how it appears on the left-hand side here. So it's a really cool program to use. We'll definitely be using it again this year for more of these subspecialty fairs that we'll hold. So I also wanted to talk a little bit quickly about how our program, kind of shows off the facilities and the spaces within our program. So what we did during our first virtual recruitment season was create our own video tour. So this is something that I put together with the help of one of our chief residents who is very tech savvy. I'll run it just for a brief moment here, but it's a pretty long video. And it starts out here with an overview of what the outside buildings look like to give candidates a feel for those spaces since they're not actually walking on campus. And then as it moves into things, it actually turns into the tour of the inside of our facilities, if I can get it there. So quality is not fantastic, professional, but this is kind of the best we could cobble together at the time. But we wanted it to look as much as possible like a walking tour of the facilities. And the way we use this video is on interview day, the candidates have time set aside to have a virtual tour with 2 of our residents, and our residents will go through this video. There's no sound to it, so they'll narrate things as they go. They can start and stop as they need to and answer any questions as they need to, but that is what we do for a tour and showcasing our facilities. I know other programs have, if they don't do a video, they've done something like put together a photo like slideshow of their facilities, and I think that's another great way to show off the spaces when candidates are not able to be here in person. And the last thing I wanted to touch on really briefly, because this has come up for our program every year, and I'm sure other people are dealing with this, a request for on-site visits after candidates have interviewed. And I'm just going to talk really briefly about what our program has done. So every year since we've been virtual, we've had probably like a pretty small group of candidates, a handful really, who asked to come on site to look at the space. They might have family who lives in the area and they'll be visiting, or they're just like passing by the area and want to stop in and look at things. So when we get these requests, we try to stay pretty hands off, because this is obviously not something that we're offering to every single candidate, and we want to keep the interview experience as comparable as possible. So when we get these requests, what we have done is the residency leadership really stays out of it. We will forward the request to one of our chief residents who will handle this and either take care of meeting up with the person when they come to the hospital, or assigning another resident to touch base with them when they're in the hospital, because obviously since things are still locked down at our hospital with COVID, we can't just let anyone in to wander around. So there needs to be a point person. So we just kind of give them a point person that they can work with as they want to touch base with when they're in town, and we really just leave it at that. So with that is everything I wanted to share. Happy to answer any questions. We can maybe hold it until all the presentations are over with, but I will pass it on to the next person. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Silviya and Mia, do you guys want to share now?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mia Falco. I am a medical education specialist and program coordinator at Mass General Brigham, associated with Harvard Neurology. Silviya and I are here today to discuss navigating virtual interview days using various platforms, Thalamus and Zoom. I'm first going to start off with more focus on Zoom, and then Silviya will jump in and talk more specifically about Thalamus. First thing I'd like to focus on is coordinating schedules. And this is in relation to just setting up the general interview days and schedule dates and times for interviewers. Recommend coordinating this months in advance to ensure their busy schedules are reserved for your interview days. When coordinating interview times, you can offer block schedule times just to help with your format and determine the level of schedule flexibility you want to accommodate for individual interviewers, and your ability to accommodate specific schedule requests as they come, as they arrive. So if you are using ERIS and SF Match, they offer various tools for tracking applicants and their application data. You can also coordinate your own tracking method through spreadsheets for applicant info, scorecards, various data that you'll pull throughout the interview season. Additionally, to mimic what Nina said, is to reserve time for applicants to meet with current residents and fellows. We found this very beneficial for applicants to have time for dedicated time to meet without influence of coordinators and faculty, and just answer some of those questions that they will get more specific answers from the trainees. And the last scheduling component is to make sure to schedule breaks for all interview day participants. Virtual days can be pretty long and grueling, so having these breaks, whether for lunch or in between sessions, and giving applicants flexibility to log in and out, I think is really helpful, and it's easy to navigate using the Zoom platform. Setting expectations and communicating regularly is really important for the virtual season. Setting reasonable timelines for requested responses or data from your applicants, as well as your interviewing group, and also offering expectations for return responses, queuing interviewer schedules via Outlook or whatever platform you're using to remind your interviewers and applicants. Make sure to include important information needed for the interviewers, scorecards, applicant files, various links for all participants to use. Intermittent email reminders for applicants and interviewers during the schedule confirmation process. We send out additional communications confirming their selected interview dates, as well as just reminders, any changes, and the importance of being prompt and transparent in communication. There are some unexpected schedule changes or potential conflicts that may arise, and just being as forthcoming as possible when those situations come. And then also, as far as for communication methods, I personally offer my cell phone and encourage folks to like call or text within 24 to 48 hours of the actual interview day, just in case there are any last minute questions or any emergencies arise, or if there's any technical issues. It's just my personal preference, but just another alternative in the event that you are logged into Thalamus or Zoom and aren't regularly checking your inbox. So I just provide with a few Zoom interview day basics that I kind of follow for my fellowship interviews. This works for various sizes of interview sessions. I typically set up an interview day like on a half day or full day schedule, with having like a select group of interviewers in the morning and the afternoon if possible, and then overlapping as needed. So I specifically like to minimize the number of Zoom links to avoid any technical issues or communication breakdowns. It also allows me as the monitor of the interview day to just be able to know where everyone is, and that if additional calls or texts are needed to individual interview day participants, we can determine where folks are and give quick updates through the Zoom chat or drop into breakout rooms, et cetera. So also with using the main Zoom interview day link is a place where we can have applicants and interviewers check in at the beginning of the day. This also provides as an initial place where the program directors or other faculty can give an overview of the interview day and review the specifics of the training programs. We also encourage folks to return from the breakout rooms to the main meeting room to review any troubleshooting, and also as a platform to communicate with their peers or observe informal conversation between faculty, and also gives us the chance as the moderators of the interview day to just kind of monitor communication and between the applicants, and also just having a more personal touch to the interview day that we don't normally have virtually. So as far as setting up the breakouts, in addition to the main meeting room, I recommend to have breakout rooms in lieu of multiple meetings. The way my program has set up is that we have each applicant have a breakout room assigned to them and have the faculty or interviewers cycle in and out of each interview session. And this will give the applicant the opportunity to log in and out of Zoom if they have a longer break, or they can return to the main meeting room just to kind of hang out with whoever also may be on break, or to ask questions that the interview day moderator could answer. We also have additional breakout rooms set up for non-interview sessions, such as meetings with the residents or fellows, and if we need to schedule any like ad hoc meetings with faculty or other interviewers for the interview day. Finally, just to summarize some general best practices, I'm sure all of these are customizable and every program has unique situations they have to adjust to. But for setting up Zoom, it's really good to determine who will be the co-host or co-host and developing a workflow. Incorporate transition time for each interview session or each meeting. We schedule half-hour blocks, but we limit the interviewers to 25 minutes to allow time to transition to the next interview, or to give everyone like a little bit of break to grab a drink of water, or for faculty to fill out scorecards immediately after their interview session. Really important to have a master schedule within view to monitor the progress of the day. This could be like a printout, or just have like a visual on your screen just for quick retrieval, because you will likely be transitioning each applicant or each interviewer in and out of their rooms. And it's just a quick checklist to monitor who's delayed or the order of interviews. For the interview day, log in early to set up and rename the rooms, match whichever schedule format that you're using. Utilize the chat function for updates. You can pop into breakout rooms or send blast messages to all of the breakout rooms. So we hold the program intro and the interview day overview within the main meeting, open breakout rooms after intros, and remind all participants of basic Zoom navigation, troubleshooting, logging in and out if for some reason your system freezes. We opt to manually assign participants designated rooms for all interviews and breakout sessions to minimize error. We've had instances in the past where folks have assigned themselves to the wrong room, and this kind of minimizes that margin of error. We also provide applicants with flexibility to log in and out, Zoom breaks, as I mentioned before. And then last, just for a helpful summarizing the end of the day, we do have an interview day debrief for interviewers and set up a mini rank meeting at the end of each session while all applicants are fresh in mind and assist with scorecard management. Next, I'm going to have Silviya take over and talk a little bit more about Thalamus.
Thank you, Mia. So some of our programs use Zoom and some use Thalamus, and I will share how some of our residents, our adult neurology residency and a few of our fellowship program have used and are using Thalamus this year again. Next slide, please. I will present some of the features and share our experiences. First, we used Thalamus for scheduling the dates. For some of the programs, specifically for the residency program, we interview about 100 applicants. So I really appreciated the way Thalamus let you schedule all the days. It really takes a few minutes for people to sign up. So first we use it for scheduling the dates. Second, we use it for building the individual interviews. We use it as a platform for the meetings instead of Zoom. And also we use it for our ranking. There is one feature we didn't use, it's called Cortex, which may be very helpful. It's something like automated reviewing function that parse PDFs, and it's like machine screening of the portfolios. But going back to first we schedule the dates, and then how building an interview looks like. So on the left, you see how we build the individual interviews. It's you basically match interviewers and interviewees. And this is to the left side, and it's being done manually inputted. And for one interview day, we have about 80, 90 entries. It's tedious, it takes some time. On the right side, we have built into our schedules morning report and noon conference, so our applicants get a sense of our residents' day. And as you can see, you can build into the Thalamus Zoom events as well. There is a feature in Thalamus that allows this building interview schedule to be automatic, but it doesn't work for our specific interviewer schedules. So we did this manually. Next slide, please. So how does the schedule looks like? Every row here represents the applicant schedule. You can see each row starts with morning report, then is the program director welcome, then are the individual interviews in the middle, and the noon conference. As I mentioned, noon conference, welcome, and morning report are all in Zoom. One thing about using Thalamus versus Zoom breakout room is that once you set up the schedule in, everybody has their own itinerary the day before, and during the day, they can guide themselves to the next session. And what the administrator has is a fair amount of flexibility, and the administrator is just looking at the so-called master view. Next slide, please. So during the day, this is what the administrator sees. We can see the current and the upcoming interview sessions. They're viewable on one page. When there are more pages. The administrator can see how much time is left. They can give a virtual knocking on the door. They can even join the session if there is something to clarify. We do also scoring, use Thalamus for scoring. Next slide, please. And here is the applicant page, and when our interviewers review different applicants, they can write notes, they can assign scores. There is 2 scores, and one we use for pre-meeting, like reviewing applications, and then another one is after the meeting. We have our ranking meeting right after each interview day, and we do it in Thalamus. We use their platform for a meeting. And during this ranking meeting, everybody can see other people's notes and scores, and that can move along conversations about applicant merits and different comments, and then faculty can see again everybody's comments and scoring. Something else to mention is that what I really appreciated is that ERAS and Thalamus really are compatible and work well for all the features I just quickly presented. And also after that, when we have the rank list in Thalamus, it's very easy to run a report and import everything into the NRMP. Thank you. So that those are, do I have another slide, Mia? I'm sorry, I forgot. Do I have something else? Oh, that's the ranking one. Yeah, this is how the ranking list looks like in the end. So in a nutshell, Thalamus successfully incorporates everything, like one-stop shop for all GME recruitment aspects. And I appreciate their customer service. There is there is some learning curve involved, but overall for the programs we use it, our experience has been really great. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. I know I learned a few new things that I'm going to suggest to some of my fellowship programs. So I hope you guys learned something new, got some good ideas. We wanted to offer about 10 minutes for questions, comments, sharing. So I just want to open it up to the group to ask any questions that you might have. If you have suggestions of things that you're trying at your institution that you want to share with the group, we'd love for you to share those ideas. And if you have specific questions for any of the programs, just ask away.
I have a thing that we did a couple of years ago, or actually last year. Tucson isn't one of those places that everybody just, is dying to go to. So we actually did, just Regina, the other coordinator, myself, we did a sort of interview one-on-one just before it opened to programs. And anybody we already had in our database, we just sort of walked them through. I mean, there's so many questions and there's so much information out there that's wrong about telling these applicants how to, no, I guess we did it after it opened, but anyway, after, it was kind of like an open house with just the coordinators and just about, there were all kinds of questions. And I thought that went really, really well. We probably had 100 people that joined. So we limited it to an hour. I did a brief presentation. And so it was just a thought of getting your face out there. I know sometimes people think that the coordinators don't have a lot of weight in this process, but as we know from this side, we do have a lot of say in many instances about, people sometimes act up or you see the true person when they don't think they're on with an interview. So we thought it was really good and a really positive thing to do.
Does anybody else want to ask any questions or share what you're doing?
Chris, there's a question in the chat about, has the AAN made a formal statement about whether interviews should be virtual?
Yes. Okay. Yes, we will send out a link to that in the post-meeting notes. That's one of the items on our agenda today. Rhea was going to mention that. So I don't have it in front of me to share, but we'll send that out. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, I just want to thank everyone again for presenting today. Caroline, Nina, Silviya, and Mia. We really appreciate you taking the time to share things that you're using at your institutions with the group. And hopefully everyone can come away with at least one new idea that they can implement with their program or programs. I know one of my fellowship programs did a webinar last year, but only one of them did. Most of them don't do a webinar ahead of time, but it actually went really well. We did it on Zoom and we had a fair number of our applicants attend. So, all right, Rhea, let's move along to our next agenda item.
So I'll just give a brief update on some relevant and events that are coming up that might be relevant to your constituents. First off, I'll just start with a couple of reminders for CNEC. So we are looking for volunteers for the Clerkship Coordinator Handbook work group. So this is a new work group that we're forming to edit and proofread a handbook that is for clerkship coordinators. This will be published on the AAN website, and hopefully it'll be a really good resource, especially for new coordinators or new clerkship coordinators, but anyone who is sort of seeking a refresher or overview on the timeline of duties for that position. So please reach out to me or Peggy Nolte, who's going to be leading that work group if you're interested in joining. we'd really love to start creating more resources for clerkship coordinators. And then second, please do reach out to me. My email was listed in is listed in this PowerPoint. It'll also be the email that you received the post-meeting notes from if you're interested in joining the program manager group. So, and then other than that, so a couple of updates from the AN at large. So all of our awards and scholarships for the annual meeting have a deadline of November 2nd. So that gives you about a month to put together any applications for awards for the Coordinator Recognition Award. We really encourage people to apply for that. You can nominate a friend, you can nominate yourself. Either are equally valid and they're not weighted differently. There are also awards for all levels of trainee and also directors. So if you have folks in mind that could benefit from this, please do share and remind them to get those applications in on time. Secondly, we got a question earlier about residency, about the AN's position on residency and fellowship applications. So the Graduate Education Subcommittee updated a previous statement that the AN had. The actual full statement, the link that I posted in the chat, has not just we recommend doing it virtually, but it also has advice and recommendations for programs and applicants similar to the advice that you heard today. But so, as well as for programs, it also has some database guidelines for applicants, so med students, on how many applications you actually need to match. And so these evidence-based guidelines are really helpful, especially for students who are worried about how many programs do I need to actually apply to match. So that's really helpful. We also held several webinars, 2 webinars recently for adult and child trainees to answer the questions about applying to programs and to promote this guideline or this guidance as well. And the link to that will be shared in the post-meeting notes. Okay, we got a quick question off topic about the Vascular Neurology Fellowship. Is there an in-training exam? I will pass that along to the coordinators because that is not my wheelhouse.
I coordinate vascular, and I'm not aware of an in-training exam. Anybody else know of one?
Did you mean mark the right? Like, is there a specialty part of the right for it, or something else?
No, it's not part of the right. It would just be, some of the fellowship programs have an in-service training program. Yes, it looks like we're getting a resounding no.
A resounding no.
Thanks everyone for confirming.
One less thing to worry about. And then finally, some upcoming events. So the next conversation coordinator, the next conversation corner for program directors and clerkship directors, both of them are coming up soon. So next month, Tuesday the 11th for program directors, and then Thursday, October 13th for clerkship directors. And then trainee trivia will come back in November on the 22nd from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Central. And we really encourage people to attend. It's a rip and roaring time. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Chris, for new and old business.
Okay, thanks. I don't have any other new or old business other than to say that we had our first annual meeting planning work group meeting last month, and we're getting ready to schedule our next one. So hopefully our group can start to come up with some really good ideas and thoughts for the annual meeting that's going to be next year. I believe it's in early April or late April. I can't remember.
It's April 22 to 27, yeah. I believe, and it'll be in Boston.
Late April.
So hopefully more folks will make it.
Let me see. I have one more. Oh, Natalie, you're interested in being part of the team for the coordinator handbook. That would be awesome. Ria, can you see Natalie's name there? Excellent. Okay. Yes, any other clerkship coordinators who would like to be part of that work group, we would love for you to join the group. We really are still trying to build our clerkship coordinator base as part of this group. So I would encourage anyone that is a clerkship coordinator to consider being part of this work group. A work group is not something that lasts like indefinitely. It's a short-term commitment, usually to work on a specific task at hand. So if you would like to be part of that work group, please reach out to us.